Okay, Crossroad Cues, here's a very special, unique, and stunning custom cue for you that is being offered as an online special. This is called the Shadow Cue. The Shadow Cue. Keep that in mind, and I'll show you why if you haven't noticed it yet. This is made by one of my favorite cue makers by far, a gentleman that we are honored to call our friend, Mr. Bob Dzuricky, formerly known as DZ Custom Cues, out of Erie, Pennsylvania. If you've been around cues for a while, I believe that you would agree with me that Bob's work is nothing short of masterful. And I use that word lightly, but Bob is a perfectionist. Bob does extra, I'm talking uber clean work. I'm giving you a chance to really take a look at this, and the video and the pictures cannot do it any real justice. So the forearm of this cue is made out of straight grain maple. It's what a lot of the old school cue makers used to like to use, and Bob loves to use the straight grain. I actually need to get him to make one for me personally. I selected Ebony on my last cue. I made a really nice wrapless cue that you can see on our website, crossroadcues.com. It is a themed cue that has a tremendous amount of intricate work in it. And we're really happy with the work. I cannot speak highly enough about Bob's integrity, his craftsmanship, just everything that he does. And if you order a cue from Bob, you will definitely have what I like to call a first-class experience. He goes through each step of it. He's very detail-oriented. So let me get back to this beautiful piece right here. The wood that is in each of the points, that is actually pink ivory wood. So you've got pink ivory wood in each of the points. You just don't see that pink ivory come up real often. And then the butt sleeve, that is curly pink ivory. There's another wood or a variation of that wood that you just don't see real often. Now the reason why he calls it the shadow cue. Let's start with the forearm here. If you notice, now each of the points are inlaid with blue. It's a blue inlay. It's a synthetic blue inlay. And then it has an ebony shadow right on the side of it there. All of the specs and the description is actually listed, of course, but I'm just kind of grazing over it with you again. If you're on YouTube, you'll see it below the post, or on our Facebook page, you can see it right there. It will be on our website, crossroadcues.com, shortly. If you notice the veneers, okay, he's got black paper, blue, black paper, orange, black paper. I'm sorry, orange, black paper, blue, black paper. Hope I got that right. It is written in the description. I had to really study it close, but he just puts so much extra work into each cue. You know, a lot of guys would never do that much black paper, but look at how the points pop, especially coming out of that light colored forearm. Now here's the best part. I'm telling you about all the aesthetics and the craftsmanship that is undeniably masterful in Bob's work, but the best part about his work is the playability, and that should be the number one reason why you buy a cue. But let's face it, some of us just enjoy the different wood species and the art that these guys put into these cues. I'll tell you right now, you will absolutely love the way his cues hit. Again, I built a custom cue with Bob, and I intend on building more. Moving down on the cue, actually let me go back up on the cue. If you haven't noticed yet, that is a white Juma joint. Underneath this custom joint protector, there is a 3/8-10 modified pin. Bob likes the 3/8-10 modified pin. He's spoke about it on his YouTube channel. And Bob also does a lot of really neat videos where he exemplifies his cue making process. But just take a look at the joint protector by itself. You've got Alforion on the top of that, and then you have the same pink ivory wood. And then you have, I believe he said, 9 sideways S's that match the rest of the cue in each of the joint protectors. And there's 3 of them, by the way. There's one for each of the shafts. And then the joint is inlaid with a special engraving on there. So if you notice, it's engraved with a special design. How cool is that? See that extra touch I was telling you about? You've got a Spanish bull wrap that is a tight form fit. Now, what's neat, and I put this in the description as well, you notice that you've got sideways S rings at all positions, okay? What Bob had mentioned was that he wanted to, he put a different amount of sideways, they're called lazy S's. I call them sideways S's. There's a different amount of lazy S's in each of the rings because he wanted to maintain the consistent spacing between the inlays. He says that variations in the spacing would be more noticeable than a variation in the number of inlays due to the inlay overlap. Now, how much more detail-oriented can you get than that? I mean, he just wanted everything to line up so perfect. That's why I say that his work is masterful. If you notice down here in the butt sleeve, of course, you've got white windows that also have the ebony shadows, and then the inlays inside of each window has the ebony shadows, hence the shadow cue. This is signed by Mr. Dzuricky. It is spelled D-Z-U-R, by the way, but it's pronounced Dzuricky, so it's R-A Dzuricky 2024. We've got a butt weight of 15.2 ounces. You also get one of Bob's custom-made keel wood shafts right there, 13 millimeters. The weight is also on there. It's 3.6 ounces, 13 millimeters. I love that medium kind of honey-looking roast. I did get one of those for my Dzuricky cue as well, and I love it. 13 millimeter tomahawk ferrule. For those of you that like the milk dud tips, Bob threw a couple of his special custom-made Dzuricky milk dud tips. Again, tomahawk ferrule, and then you have a nice Canadian hard rock maple shaft. Everything is standard size. This is a 58-inch cue. You would expect, with the amount of work that I've just showed you, by a world-class cue maker, you would expect to be $3,000 to $4,000 plus for this cue. By the way, it's got a nice forward balance to it, okay? And if you like the cue but you want it a little bit heavier, of course you could add weight to the cue. You could always go up. It's harder to come down. But if you wanted to add the weight, that would be something that you could do on your own, or we can probably get Bob to do that for you. I personally think that he weighs his cues and balances them because he's so detail-oriented. I wouldn't touch this cue. But again, you've got a maple shaft that is a 3.8 ounce, 13 millimeter, and then the keel wood, of course, is a little bit lighter, designed to be lower deflection. You would expect to pay $3,000 or $4,000 or more for a cue like this. We have this available right now at Crossroad Cues. In honor of our relationship with Bob, we've recently taken on the privilege of being an online dealer of his cues. Bob does not need help like many of these cue makers selling their cues, but he does give us the privilege, and we have the friendship with him, and we're very grateful to be able to showcase these cues. And we have this available right now for only $26.75. You heard me right. Only $26.75 with all of this custom work, those custom joint protectors, and top-notch craftsmanship. Only in America, baby. Crossroad Cues, DZ Custom Cue. Get it while it's available. Check our website if you want to support this Pennsylvania cue maker from Erie, Pennsylvania, that is known all over the world for his excellent work. You can get it when it loads to our website. If you need financing, we've got financing with a firm. Check out the options. Hit me up with an email. Give me a call. CrossroadCues.com. DZ Custom Cue.